Good day, everyone. For this particular video, we'll be discussing about the most prevalent problem in the country, which is actually solid waste pollution. So when we talk about solid waste, these are any unwanted material that is neither liquid nor gas because of its solid state, thus the name solid waste. Different types of or classifications of waste are the following. First would be municipal waste coming from residential area or from households, the industrial waste from factories or industries, and also have toxic and hazardous waste from hospitals and laboratories. So this will be our hierarchy for solid waste management. The top and the most preferred one should be prevention of waste. As much as possible, we need to have the idea of avoidance in terms of waste generation. We need to avoid or prevent waste from generating. So if we don't need it, we don't buy it as much as possible because the top and the most preferred hierarchy for solid waste should always be avoidance of waste or prevention. It should be followed by reuse, and then recycling materials, recover the energy of this particular material, and the last and the least preferred for this particular hierarchy should go with disposal of waste. So before we dispose a waste, we need to follow this hierarchy so that we can maintain a cleaner and greener environment. Zero waste management system, this aims to achieve zero waste from its source. So we have the reduce, reuse, and recycle. We talk about reduce, cut waste disposal and handling cost, reduce packaging materials, avoid practices that produce toxicity, and maintain durable products. Reduce. Next would be reuse, finding alternative use of materials we usually consider as junk. For example, you bought a bottle of water, and then you use that for the same purpose. You put water in this particular bottle and serve as your water jug. So that will be reusing that particular material. Talk about recycling, on the other hand, it is a method of processing used materials into new products. Remember, in this particular case, when we talk about recycling, we are producing a new product. So technically, we are also changing the purpose or the use of that particular material. That's the name recycling. For example, you have your water bottle and then you created a pencil case out of it. So it serves another purpose, thus the name recycling. So composting, on the other hand, is actually more applied on biological or biodegradable materials. So this is the biodegradation of organic matter into humus-like product. This is more used in organic farming where we help degrade our biodegradable waste and recover it as a fertilizer. So the byproduct is known as a compost, which is commonly used as fertilizers for farming, as what I mentioned earlier. So that is composting. We collect biodegradable waste like food waste and let it rot, let it ferment, and after some time, we can actually produce a product, which is a fertilizer, which is good for farming. Then another method would be vermiculture. So vermiculture means artificially rearing or cultivation of worms, in this case earthworms, and the technology is the scientific process of using them for the betterment of human beings. So it's also actually helping us produce humus. Because to talk about vermiculture, we have here vermicompost, which is actually the excreta, the waste of earthworms, which is rich in humus. So earthworms technically eat soil, digest it in their system, and excrete, and they also excrete humus, which is now good with enzymes, or so it is now good for farming. So that is one technology in agriculture we know as vermiculture. So for disposal, we have here the sanitary landfill. This is an image of a sanitary landfill. So about sanitary landfill, solid waste are spread in layers, compacted and covered with earth daily. So away from faults, wetlands, and floodplains, because as much as possible, we don't want to contaminate our waterways. So that's why it must be away from wetlands and floodplains. There should be composite liners of 2 feet of compacted clay soil lining the bottom and the sides of the landfill because we don't want also to contaminate our groundwater under the soil. No, so we need to have this particular lining. Leachate collection and removal system. And lastly would be operating practices that includes compacting and covering waste with several inches of soil. So we prevent here air pollution because after dumping our waste, we need to cover it with earth. So there will be no smell produced, and at the same time, we will not contaminate the air with unpleasant smell, and at the same time, risk the health of the community. That is a sanitary landfill, which is really advisable in terms of disposal of waste. So this is an image of a sanitary landfill, as we can see here. We have here a thick lining so that the groundwater will no longer be affected with this particular disposal area. So we also collect leachate. When we talk about leachate, these are liquids produced during the decomposition of garbage. So this could contaminate our water stream. That's why it is collected so that it will not be a hindrance, and at the same time, it will not be a risk to the health of the community. So we need to collect leachate. Okay. And as what I've mentioned earlier, we also have here methane gas recovery. That's why there will be no smell because methane is collected in this particular technology. And of course, as what we also mentioned earlier, after putting our garbage in this particular area, we must cover it with a soil. That's why it will not be a pollutant in our air because we talk about smell, it could actually pollute, and worst case scenario, that particular bad smell coming from our disposal area will be a risk to the health of the community. So that is being avoided when you talk about sanitary landfill. Opposite or another technology is for us to recover energy from our waste, and that is used through incinerators. So this is used in burning of garbage and removal of the residue, machine that burns the trash and waste into ash. So aims to avoid accumulation of hazardous materials into landfills, and burning can smog and air pollution. So as much as possible, talk about incinerators, it is also a hindrance to, or it could actually affect our the quality of air around us. But there are some incinerators that actually could collect air pollutants. So the main goal of this is actually to convert waste into energy. So we are actually in the step where we need to recover the energy. So the term incinerator. So that's it. That's for incinerators. So we also have here the open dump site, garbage dump in open sites where organic matter is allowed to rot. A least preferred method, and at the same time temporarily removes only waste now from its source and designate another location to place garbage. So we talk about open dump site as seen in this picture. Once this dump site is already at its maximum load, we need now to transfer or to have another location for us to dump our waste. So it's not actually sustainable when we talk about open dump site. And aside from it, that we need to have more place for us to dump our waste. The problem with open dump site is that we are not really sure if the liquid coming from this decomposition of garbage would enter our water table, thus a risk to the health of the community. And at the same time, when you are in a dump site, you can actually smell methane and different odor from this particular rotting or decomposition of waste. So it is also risky no, in terms of health when we inhale this particular air coming from an open dump site. So controlling pollution, sewage treatment plants that use bacteria to break down sewage before it is released into the waterways. As much as possible, we need to control pollution when we talk about solid waste management. So these are just some of the Philippine efforts to solve solid waste. Accelerated composting technology, we have the bioreactor and aerobic degradation of solid waste include fabricated reactor to a level suitable for organic fertilizer. Take note of the term aerobic. Thus, you need air, oxygen for this technology to happen or for this process to occur. That is your accelerated composting technology or your bioreactor. anaerobic composting, biogas reactor, anaerobic conversion of organic waste from agriculture, livestock, and domestic into energy, and biofertilizers that do not use oxygen. From the word anaerobic, meaning it does not require air, thus there's no use for oxygen for this process to happen, and that is your anaerobic composting. And the last would be vermiculture or vermicomposting. We talked about this earlier. It produces compost with the use of worms, African night crawlers, that eat solid waste and produce vermicast, a pure worm excreta and worm biomass. And this is really good for farming when we talk about vermicomposting. So, material recovery facility based on RA 9003 or the Ecological Solid Waste Management Act of the Philippines, the law that provides a solid and legal framework for the country's systematic, comprehensive, and ecological solid waste management program that will ensure public health and the environment. So we have here the establishment of the MRF or Material Recovery Facility in every barangay in cluster of barangays or cluster of barangays. So MRF, specialized plant that receives, segregates, and prepares recycled materials. So as you can see here in this particular picture, we have bakal or metals, carton or paper cartons. We also have bote or glass bottles and plastic, of course, plastic bottles. So these are your MRF. And I hope in your barangay or in your city, you also practice this particular MRF, Material Recovery Facility, to better segregate our waste. Since on publicity, first to build MRF in Calabarzon area. This is just like a trivia. So that's it for solid waste management. I hope you learned something and I hope you will apply your learnings in your everyday life, especially when you encounter different solid waste in your forest. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much and have a great day.